Good afternoon, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. Wow, the taper talk is really heating up. They're talking about actually doing taper like next month, like in September. Now, I would be a little surprised if they actually do any kind of tapering come September, but it is a very good likely possibility that it could happen. Now, what could you expect from the Fed's tapering? Now, a lot of people assume just because the Fed is going to taper that the interest rates are just going to automatically go up. Now, I can really see that happening in things like, say, the U.S. Treasuries or maybe the mortgage-backed security market, interest rates on home loans. But I don't think the Federal Reserve is going to be messing around with the Fed funds rate or the interest on excess reserves and stuff like that, at least not on a serious note. Not in the beginning. Most of it is probably just going to be like a lot of jawboning to try and condition the markets to get them ready for the idea of the Fed actually backing off on their asset purchases. Now, if you think about it, like, what are these asset purchases? Now, it's the purchasing of U.S. Treasuries and mortgage-backed securities. Now, to me, like, the more important one is the mortgage-backed security. That's the one that affects everybody's, like, home loans, like what they can refinance their home for, what they can purchase a new home for. And these mortgage-backed securities, if you think about the Federal Reserve having these on their balance sheet, the more people pay off their loans or refinance, that is pretty much extinguishing the current mortgage-backed security and reestablishing a new loan, which then goes into a new security that has to be purchased again. So financing or refinancing is not going to be nearly as extensive after the Federal Reserve backs off on their mortgage-backed security purchases, just because the people who are writing those mortgage-backed securities need to find a place to sell those things. And now, just like any other bond, if you cannot find a buyer for them because the Federal Reserve is like backing away, then you need to do what? Start dropping the prices until you can find a buyer. When the prices go down, the interest rates go up. So I can only assume that as the Federal Reserve starts to back off on their mortgage-backed security purchases, you're going to see the interest rates on home loans begin to rise. Now, when the home loans begin to rise, the interest rates on home loans, the capabilities of people being able to buy these expensive homes is not going to be very likely. I mean, already I'm looking at homes that, like in my area, like the cheapest ones are around $400,000. Now, if you start raising the interest rates on a $400,000 home, most likely the average person is not going to be able to make the payments. So what do you have to do? You have to lower the pricing, just like anybody else. So I can see that the inflation, the irrational exuberance that has taken place, that has already been overwhelming. And when you think about the Fed saying that they were going to let inflation run extra hot for extra long to make up for all the times that it was doing bad or make up for bad times, if you think about it, if the whole housing and cars and everything else, stock market, everything is just people look at it and go oh my God, I can't believe how high the numbers are here. The Federal Reserve has achieved that overinflation expectation, and they're going to continue to run that for a while. But when they turn it off and the inflation begins to taper down or just backs off, maybe not even go negative in any way, just stops going up, well, then it's just a matter of time before the reality of the situation begins to present itself. And so I guess what I mean by that is that if these homes right now are over expensive and they stay at this price, well, in 10 years from now, the capabilities of the people to buy a $500,000 home won't seem like such a big deal. But people won't be looking at homes as this super awesome asset that goes up by 15% every year, 10, 15% every year. They'll be looking at it as something as just a place where you live. They won't think about it as man, look at all the money you can make off of it. You kind of see what I'm saying? It's right now people look at houses as there's a no-lose situation. It's going to continually go up forever. And if you buy one right now, you're going to be super rich in 10 years. I mean, this is really what a lot of people are thinking. But, for me, I've had the experience of having purchased a house, have that house go underwater, continually to try and make payments to stay in that house until you have depleted all your funds, sold off all your assets, sold off everything that you could possibly do to make a payment with, and you're still not making the payments, and it's over. Now, that situation, a lot of people are not familiar with. They don't know what it's like to have a house go underwater on them. I mean, it happened such a long time ago that there is a lot of people young people who are experiencing an awesome housing boom that don't see it any other way. And it's a dangerous place to be, if you ask me. So with the Federal Reserve backing off on those mortgage-backed securities, I think that is something that you guys should really kind of focus in on and watch it as it relates to the interest rates that people are going to be paying on their homes, at least on their mortgages. So already, with that kind of thought in mind, you can see people are already like, oh gosh, we got to get out of this house. If we are going to take the biggest profit we can from this house, we need to sell it now. And you're seeing more and more properties going onto the market. And now, as I'm watching these properties go on the market, I'm watching the prices get reduced as well. They're still selling. I mean, there's still a lot of properties that are moving and people are buying. But it's amazing to me how long a lot of these houses are sitting on the market without being sold or, going into a pending sale or something. It's pretty interesting to think about. So, like I said, will the Federal Reserve taper next month? I doubt that they are going to taper. They may actually make an announcement next month that they will taper, put a date on it. But again, I think that's probably going to be, a few more months out. Probably, I hate to put predictions on it because I'm terrible at predicting things. I just kind of assume that it's probably going to end up being pushed more towards the beginning of the year than it would be, or maybe the end of the year, not so much September. But anyway, Uneducated Economist. You guys let me know.